He is looking like Skeletor from He-Man. Tom has literally no idea what he's talking about here. How many companies are actually hiring on like a strict point scale? Now it's not DEI? What?
You're saying DEI, yes.
The way he said that though, I felt that. The way he said it though. He meant that. He meant that. I've got a shockingly high percentage of women, in fact. YouTube says 13.6% female. Okay, isn't that crazy? Who wants to watch Tom struggle to explain affirmative action? Oh, his SEO's getting even worse. I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think it could get worse. That's amazing. Oh, we've got to slow down.
They had unfair hiring practices, and they got sued for it. Same.
Okay.
So it's going to take a while to go, but it'll keep going up and up and up over time. And but yeah, right now it's definitely at a more than good enough speed. So, okay. All right. So let's start over. DEI is not a system to give a position to a less qualified person.
The tip begging banners is giving DSP. Dude, Deeper Armor is actually seething. Like giving is catching on in this chat. Deeper Armor is crying and pissing. You're all gay men. You're all gay men.
Because of their race or gender. It's not. You will not find that anywhere in DEI whatsoever. Not only will you not find it as any part of an official aspect of this, but it's unconstitutional to do that. Businesses who do this will and can get sued and have been sued. Like, there have been businesses who have done this that wasn't part of DEI, but they were just like, they had unfair hiring practices and they got sued for it. Same for colleges that have had unfair practices for choosing who does and doesn't get into their school. They have been sued for these things because it's unconstitutional. You're not allowed to do this. You cannot just choose people based on race or gender or ethnicity or anything like that. It is unconstitutional. It is illegal. It is against our protected classes, the protected classes acts that we have within our country. You're not allowed to do it. So DEI is just programs it does a number of things. One, it's supposed to encourage businesses to hire more diverse groups of people. Two, it's supposed to give them like classes and things that'll give them like diversity training and like that, that'll give them like a business setting that'll make it more likely to where more diverse groups of people will want to work for their companies.
So guys, can we just appreciate how skinny Tom has gotten real quick? Look at this guy. Look at this skeleton. He is looking like Skeletor from He-Man. Don't accuse the Addy though. No, exactly. He's very adamant that it's nothing to do with the stimulants he's been taking. He's just losing weight. Let's find him. Where's a nice... We don't want it too long ago, really, do we? We'll want it like... What? When did we start talking about Tom, really? Where should we go here? Let's go like 8 months ago.
Camelot, hey, do you...
Look at him here. Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, he's got AIDS. Guy looks like he's got AIDS. He's looking withered. It's fitting that Rakita's on screen, actually. It's quite fitting that Rakita is on screen for this one. That's prophetic.
Business setting that'll make it more likely to where more diverse groups of people will want to work for their companies. 3, goes over the benefits the statistical benefits that companies have gotten from.
So Tom is totally winging this, by the way. I don't know if you've noticed, he's got no idea what he's talking about here. When he's saying these are the 3 things DEI does, he's got no clue. This isn't coming from anywhere. This isn't coming from anything he's read. He says later on he's never had to do DEI in the workplace. He's just totally winging this. He's like, these are the things DEI programs do in the workplace. It's like, you, based on what?
It is unconstitutional. It is illegal. It is against our protected classes. The protected classes acts that we have within our country. You're not allowed to do it. So DEI is just programs to, it does a number of things. One, it's supposed to encourage businesses to hire more diverse groups of people. Two, it's supposed to give them like classes and things that'll give them like diversity training and shit like that, that'll give them like a business setting that'll make it more likely to where more diverse groups of people will want to work for their companies. Three, goes over the benefits, the statistical benefits that companies have gotten from becoming more diverse. Those are the main things that DEI does as a program, okay? Now, how do they tell people to hire more diverse groups of people without them choosing them over white people? How did they do this? Well, they can do it in non-illegal ways, like saying, oh, you guys are both just as qualified as one another. One's white, one's black. You guys have the same qualifications across the board, but we're going to use the fact that this person is black as the tiebreaker. Now, they're not being hired based on their race. They're being hired based on their qualifications. But they're choosing a tiebreaker based on race. That's different. That's very different than saying you hired someone because of their race or didn't hire someone because of their race.
Isn't this awesome?
Versus, you know, you just...
So you hired them because of their race, but you didn't hire them because of their race. The deciding factor in whether you hired them or not was race, but you didn't hire them because of their race.
You guys are both just as qualified as one another. One's white, one's black. You guys have the same qualifications across the board, but we're going to use the fact that this person is black as the tiebreaker. Now, they're not being hired based on their race. They're being hired based on their qualifications, but they're choosing a tiebreaker based on race. That's different. That's very different than saying you hired someone because of their race or didn't hire someone because of their race. Versus...
So it's just incredibly funny as well, because Tom has literally no idea what he's talking about here. Not just in like what he's trying to explain, but like, this isn't DEI, right? DEI, there are many different ideas of diversity programs. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is usually about attitudes and thoughts and representation in like the product and stuff like that. What the thing Tom's talking about is like affirmative action. He's talking about like affirmative action. And there are different types of that. Then you've got positive action as well, which is like a different thing. So, I mean, we can just go through some of this. So, what is DEI? DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a philosophy and culture that aims to acknowledge, embrace, and support people from all backgrounds. DEI is often used in the workplace, and schools, and government agencies. 3 components of DEI are diversity, equity, and inclusion, obviously. Some examples of DEI in the workplace include avoiding gender terms, being mindful of cultural differences, using inclusive greetings like hello all instead of dear sir/ma'am. So this is like about attitudes in the workplace. It's about like how you interact, making it an accommodating place, making it a place that fosters diverse thought and expressions of different backgrounds. That's the idea, right? Whether you agree with that or not, whether you think that's a good thing or not, that's the idea. And you've got affirmative action. which is like basically illegal in a lot of places. It's illegal in the UK. Affirmative action is designed as a set of procedures designed to eliminate unlawful discrimination among applicants, remedy the results of prior such discrimination, and prevent such discrimination in the future. But what does this actually play out as? Right, let's find the Wikipedia. That's just a retarded legal website thing. Positive action also kind of fits under that. Right. Okay, well, I suppose they count positive action as part of affirmative action. That a lot of these practices are illegal. So basically, stuff like reservations, alternative access, and positive discrimination. I think these are all basically illegal in the UK. I think the Supreme Court has started. I haven't looked into it, but there's like some ruling that fucked with a lot of this stuff, right? I think it was over Harvard admissions or some. Am I correct? Okay, and then we've got this positive action. So this is what's illegal in the UK. Most of it's illegal, but this is what's legal. In order to do this lawfully, you should understand what legislation allows and familiarize yourself with the full guidance. Positive action allows additional help to be provided for groups of people who share a protected characteristic, for example, race, sex, or sexual orientation, in order to level the playing field. You can take proportionate action that aims to reduce disadvantage, meet different needs, and increase participation. There are two types of positive action that set out in the Equality Act 2010. General. This includes proportionate actions which are designed to meet the three aims above. This could include, for example, providing a leadership scheme to help understand an underrepresented group, achieve more, leadership scheme to help an underrepresented group, achieve more senior positions in an organization, or providing tailored training for a group because they have specific requirements. Okay, so this is basically saying, yeah, so this is like help in the workplace because, I don't know, fucking, you've got a bunch of Polish people that never move up the ladder because they don't speak very good English. So you put in a scheme to help Polish people in the workplace learn English and communicate with bosses better. That makes sense, right? This is like probably a reasonable application. And then recruitment or promotion. This involves actions that reduce the disadvantage and or increase representation, specifically when it comes to deciding between equally qualified candidates. For example, hiring one candidate over another. So yeah, this is specifically for equally qualified candidates. Hiring one candidate over another, equally qualified one, because the former has a certain characteristic that's underrepresented in the workforce. Okay, and you can only do, all right, you can only do it when they're underrepresented too. So if a group is underrepresented in your company and they're equally qualified, you can choose to hire them. Other activities which are related to recruitment, for example, jobs targeted at ethnic minority groups that do not involve choosing between candidates, fall under the general section. Okay. Well, yeah, Indian now, maybe, sure. So this would be positive action. So what Tom's describing now is a form of, I think, positive action, the tiebreaker thing. It's not just DEI.
You know, you just, like, threw out qualifications and just chose race. Like, those are insanely different things. One is highly illegal. The other one is not. And so, yes, this is what DEI is in reality. Okay. So while that is what DEI is, stop saying tiebreaker. There is no such thing. You haven't worked at big companies in a while. They specifically promote minorities because of DEI, not performance. I just said a lot of things. If you want to disagree with something I've said, with like something substantial, that would be cool. But to just repeat something over and over, I'm just going to say you're wrong. You're going to say I'm wrong. I'm going to say, well, you can't find any proof. You're going to say, yeah, true, I can't find any proof. And then that's going to be the end of it. So, like, if that's the road you want to go down, we can go down it. But it's, yeah, there's no like clause anywhere that says like you're allowed to do this as long as you call it DEI. Like, no, it's still unconstitutional. It's still not allowed. No candidates or ties. You're just incorrect. You are just wrong. You're just wrong. Sorry. Most big companies.
So this guy is wrong. It's not that there's no such thing as a tiebreaker. But the reality is that most companies that are employing a broad DEI practice, it's not about a tiebreaker. And when they're looking at people, that if it's like a startup or something, or like almost anywhere really, that's not just hiring people who are straight out of like fucking high school, where they just all have high school diplomas or whatever. Basically anywhere, it's not going to be equal candidates. In any serious position, no two candidates are going to be equal. That is true. Most of this stuff is only going to apply to like entry-level shit. I would imagine anyway, because I don't see how else you get equal candidates when people have been to different universities, you know? How do you, like, those aren't equal candidates anymore. They might have the same education level, but they are not equal candidates.
Have like testing for to decide how qualified somebody is, and they take different aspects of each thing that they're doing and they give them scores for.
Yeah, I mean, different career paths, but that's even like further down the line, right? Like, even what I'm saying is high school diploma, sure, two people will probably be equal, but even when you get to the point of higher education, it's like, okay, well, now it's fucked.
They're for
no one's equal on this,
for their overall ability to work at that company, and they can. You'll jump on. Well, I think Rao said that he was going to jump on, so I don't want to skip Rao. Is Rao still here? Is Rao still here? Anybody?
I think it means Ral, some panel guy. Wow, cool, thrilling.
Okay, I don't see him. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
All right.
I don't know what you mean by tiebreakers, because every time I've ever seen
hold on. My stream just dropped again. Okay, it looks like it's back up. Okay, go ahead.
I was reading chat.
Okay.
No, I was just trying to read chat, see what was going on there. Every time I've ever seen any hiring process ever go through, they had a lot of different candidates that could do a job, and then they were filtered by what their education was, and all of them had different schools that are different values, different GPAs coming from there, and then it was who would take what offer. Usually came down to money most of the time. Who did we think we could get for the least amount of money? Never.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Sorry, you said never what?
I guess every time I've ever seen it, you get whatever, bunch of applicants, you filter them by their education and their experience. And a lot of times some will have more education, some will have more experience, and then it's like, what companies are they coming from? Do we think that company's got processes we want to learn from versus someone coming out of school? And then it's, what do you think you can offer for who to get? Never is there a candidate that's tied and you're like, oh, well, they're perfectly tied. We're going to take the black one, not the white one. Like it always comes down to, and every time I've seen it, it's like, we don't have enough of this. It was almost always settling on not being the best qualified candidate, but realizing that we needed diversity within the office, and then making the choice because of this. It was women when we did it, because there was an all male like area, and so we hired women specifically with that intent, that we're not as qualified as some of the male candidates, but we needed women in the office. We figured if we got too far down the line, it would be weird then to have too many people in our department and no women.
Yeah, so there's a number of things that you mentioned, like wanting to hire somebody based on them taking a lower a lower like pay rate is not like about like qualifications though, right? You
We
can
had to offer
be
more. Men would have taken less. We had
you
to offer
can be
more to
hold
get
on,
women
hold on,
to
hold
take
on,
the
hold on,
job.
hold on, hold on. Okay, you can be less.
Like, look at his chat as well right now. Explain why black students slumped in those universities. Yes, that's true. I don't know if you realize it's never been about hiring the most qualified for a job. Tom living in a bubble.
Qualified. Or, I mean, sorry, you can be equally qualified, and they can be willing to pay more for a DEI hire. But okay, hold on, motherfucker. I can't. You just said a lot.
See, he wouldn't have any of this trouble if he didn't try and talk so fucking authoritatively about shit he's got no idea about. Like, he just started winging it about what DEI is. Totally winging it. About, like, it's saying about what they do in corporations. Being like, oh, you know, I know, yeah, in big corporations, this is what they do. This is what DEI looks like in the workplace. It's like, what, how the fuck do you know this, bro? When the fuck have you've never worked a proper corporate job. You fucking lied about the linguist shit. Let's be serious here. Pizza Hut general manager does not know shit about fucking DEI in startups or in fucking Google, bro. Okay.
You can be equally qualified, and they can be willing to pay more for a DEI hire. But okay, hold on, motherfucker. I can't.
I did. He's
you
so
just said
mad
a lot.
Here. He's so mad here.
Lower, a lower like pay rate is not like about like qualifications though, right? You
we
can
had to offer more. Men would have taken less.
You can be hold on. Okay, you can be less qualified. Or, I mean, sorry, you can be equally qualified, and they can be willing to pay more for a DEI hire. But okay, hold on, motherfucker. I can't. You just said a lot. I'm trying to give my thought process here. So when corporations that I worked for, different, we had like tests with scores and shit that kind of like leveled what our likelihood to want to hire them, or like how they placed for those positions. In order to even apply, there were already minimum requirements, right? So like degree in like this level, or a minimum level of education, like so many years with like for your background, like sometimes even like different like
yes,
personality tests and things like that. These things give us like very definitive scores on the likelihood to hire these people. And because because of the minimum requirements that were already there, that almost everybody was fucking like tied. Like almost all of them were within like a 5-point scale of one another. Of them,
that's right.
Even
dude, it's just
so
like
funny. Degree in like this level, or a minimum level of education, like tests with work, fully qualified, and they can be willing to pay more for a DEI hire. But okay, hold on, motherfucker. I can't. You just said a lot. I'm trying to give my thought process here. So when corporations that I worked for, different, we had like tests with scores and shit that kind of like leveled what our likelihood to want to hire them, or like how they placed for those positions. In order to even apply, there were already minimum requirements, right? So like degree in like this level, or a minimum level of education, like so many years with like for your background, like sometimes even like
dude, he's stressing so hard. He is stressing so hard trying to come up with this shit, man.
Degree in like this level, or a minimum level of education, like so many years with like for your background, like sometimes even like
Dude,
different,
look at
like
him.
Yes,
personality tests and things like that. These things give us like very definitive scores on the likelihood to hire these people. And because because of the minimum requirements that were already there, that almost everybody was fucking like tied. Like almost all of them were within like a 5-point scale of one another on likelihood to hire, unless they just like completely fucked up on the
yeah, but
on like personality test scores and shit like that.
Never say that they were even. There's just no way. You can say your scores and stuff. That's fine on likelihood to hire. I don't know, like you can do personality tests. You can have a whole bunch of different metrics in there for that, but never once did I see people. It was always a balancing act between like whether we wanted more experience or more education and what we thought that they would know coming in.
Guys, we have to deep fake videos of Alyssa McCanty saying that she loves Tomfooleryshow, okay?
Yeah, that I would imagine for like bigger corporations, because most of the ones that are doing this are the biggest corporations. So I never worked for a business that did specifically DEI, but the biggest corporations seem to, like, when we're talking about, again, like minimum levels of like requirements for just to apply in the first place, like, yeah, shit like Google and Twitter and all these companies, they are all getting applications from the Ivy Leagues already. Like they are already going to
why is he just winging it, man? Why is he just winging this?
Just tons of the top schools, or even like
this is how Twitter and Google's hiring processes work. All right, Tom, cool.
The top tech schools and shit like that are already applying to them as like, yeah, minimum requirements. So when you're acting like there's just this broad array of, like, it could be like a tech, a community school versus like Harvard and shit, like that's just not really the case. Like most of the times when companies set minimum requirement levels for who it is that can apply for these jobs, those are already clearing out the majority of people who are going to cause a big difference in who it is they will or won't hire.
The ways that I've seen it applied is more often in promotions than in the initial hiring. It's always, and even my wife has gotten promotions and she's like going to apply and she's like, oh, this person's going to apply. And they're like, yeah, but you're going to get it, and just apply. And then she gets it. And then they move her up because they didn't have enough women in the, straight from her manager's mouth to her. They don't write it down. That's not how it's done. She was actually kind of pissed about it.
Like, that's not even DEI at that point. That's literally just...
No, they're running those programs. They're having the seminars. They all have to sit through them, everyone in the company.
Yeah, but no. That's affirmative action. That's not DEI.
No.
That is just affirmative action.
An outside company. No, they hire an outside... Affirmative action is what you were talking about, where the tiebreaker was. DEI is the next level that came in.
Because no. Hold on, wait. The initial part of affirmative action that was overruled by the Supreme Court was the part where they were allowed to hire people based that were less qualified based on like some sort of immutable characteristic. That part was overruled by the Supreme Court, where they said you're not allowed to do that. DEI is kind of the thing that replaced this. That is correct.
The starting part of it was lawsuits where they would just sue if you didn't have, if it looked like you didn't have enough people in each whatever department or in specific roles. So companies got scared about that, and they just tried to move as many people into those to avoid it wasn't a directive. It was we don't want to get sued. So then you moved people into leadership roles, you moved people up, that you probably wouldn't have to avoid someone having the viewpoint that your company was not doing its best to be inclusive and whatever. Then DEI came, and that was they would hire a third party company to come in and tell everyone about how to act in the office, how to whatever. And
yeah, they have diversity
things.
training. They have have like things where they tell them how like diversity is supposed to benefit their business and how it's like actually better for them. The diversity training is supposed to make it to where like more diverse people are more likely to want to work for your company and more likely to apply. And then if they're hired, they're more likely to want to stay, and they won't think of it as some sort of boys club or something and want to leave really quickly. They won't feel like otherized or anything and dip out, that they will come to a place where they will want to stay. And then the hiring practices are things that are still legal under the Constitution, and the way that everybody in chat was talking about it is as though it was this thing where you're just going and finding less qualified people and hiring them just because of their race.
You do, though.
That's just not what happens.
Then whatever, just looks for any candidates that they can move up, and they won't be the best candidates. You're getting stuck on, do they meet the requirements? They meet the requirements, but they're not the best candidate for the promotion or the best candidate for whatever, for the hire. They are a candidate that meets the requirements and then fulfills this, making sure that you are covering your butt as a manager, as a HR department, as a company. And so then they move people up who are not the best candidates for the roles. They moved, well, she left it, but she was not a great candidate for management. She liked, but that's what the role was. And she moved out of management after that because that wasn't what she wanted to do anyways. But they wanted more female managers. So they looked for them and they promoted with that specifically.
This caller is not much better than Tom. No, I mean, that's the beauty of Tom.
You just keep saying tiebreaker, and
no one above 80 IQ is watching Tom.
Never is anyone's resume, experience, and anything ever a tie. There's more and less qualified. Now you can have them, they're both qualified, but there's more, and then there's less.
Yes, again, hold on. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that generally most businesses have a minimum level of not just businesses, positions have. That's what I'm saying. But
you need to be brain damaged to watch this content. You actually do.
Is not like this very low threshold, especially not for big corporations that are doing DEI shit that can afford to do this in the first place. Like these are massive corporations that are already only hiring the top-notch people, and their minimum requirements are already top-notch things. They're just and it does make it to where there is just a very small difference between one person and the other, and you're putting it on like these very like
you're
subjective.
Applying it to this one situation where it's this huge company, Google, Facebook, blah blah blah. But this filters down to every company that doesn't get the.
What does that mean? It filters down. What does that mean? It filters down.
Every company is, well, maybe if you have 50 employees or less, you don't have to deal with it. But every company that has 50 or more employees is going to be affected by all of this stuff.
What does that mean affected? I don't know what you're just.
Who does Destiny raid on YouTube is? I've actually got no idea who Destiny would even raid on YouTube.
Saying random shit. I don't know what any of this means.
It affects how they view their hiring practices. They are not going to get the.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Affects, like we're saying, like I'm saying that there are very few businesses that are actually doing DEI training and actually doing DEI, and then you're saying, but it affects everybody else. How does it affect them? How does that make sense? What specifically is happening?
You were saying that only a few are doing it correctly, like you are stating. Where
not Kuihman, anybody but him. I've Ollie, I received 2 kick raids from Destiny. I don't know if you're aware of this. I actually received 2 kick raids from Destiny, okay?
They're getting all the top-notch applicants, and there are actual ties because their requirements are so high. Most companies they have a minimum for...
One was when I was runner-up on Kick OK because I think Gokanari wasn't streaming. I can't remember what the other one was.
Threshold, and applicants coming in will jump over those minimums pretty easily. And then there'll be a wide range between education and experience that they're sorting by and coming up with who they're going to hire. Then, if they're a company and with everything in culture pushing that way, that with DEI, with affirmative action, they're very cognizant of what their ratios are within their company. And they will at points decide this department doesn't have enough of this. We will look at our stack, and there might be a person that's got more experience, more education, they will skip that one.
How many since Kelly said you're anti-fan? Kelly said I was an anti-fan before I was even on Kick or Keep. Retard. She'd already said that. I'd asked her to say that. I had said, don't invite me on Kick or Keep unless you know that Destiny's fine with some unhinged hater being on there. I literally said that, dipshit. Nice try.
To get down to
nice
one that
try.
makes the minimum requirements, but also checks off a box for whatever diversity area they need. And that's where you're not getting the best candidate.
You're just,
getting one
that doesn't make sense. You're just saying that, and I know that might sound good in your head, but that literally means nothing. You're just saying meaningless words, that this affects them and that this is part of the culture and whatever. Whatever I did in my businesses to hire my employees, was not affecting any other cultures or anybody else, and we didn't have anything like this. When we're talking about...
DEI wouldn't exist if it wasn't in the culture. Affirmative action wouldn't exist if it wasn't government oriented in the culture. This sets the tone for what all businesses are doing.
No, it doesn't. Stop saying that. You're talking about things that like you can't even go and get fucking like data or any sort of like studies or anything to prove anything that you're saying. So if it was that open and that like obvious, that you would be able to get obvious data to support your claims, but you can't because it's not that wide open to where it's just affecting everybody else around you. First off, second off, it's like only like 25% of fucking Americans are.
Oh, a bit of supplementary Tom tent here. A bit of supplementary man tent. Coming in here, some chat screenshots from last night. Manta says, yeah, you guys need me. All the chicks over there are gay and dumb and retarded. If I go on and bully Cherry, it'll be on a whim, lol. Plus, J-Stalk likes you. You're always welcome there. I'll think about it. Cherry has ruined that channel. And when I say I'll think about it, I mean I won't. Lol. If I go on and bully Cherry, it'll be on a whim. Lol. Raw, why don't you stop being a free recruiter for Daddy Jew Stalker? It's pathetic and embarrassing, Nilla. Actually, we're writing Tom.
Emery super chatted $1.99. Alien.
Thank you. Thank you. Where were we? What were we watching? Where were we?
Hold on. It's like 25%. It's like 25% of like American workers work for corporations with 500 employees or more. Like we're not talking about like the majority that's going to fucking leak down or anything. No, we're talking about the minority that can even afford this in the first place. And then it's something like 95% of those 500 plus employee companies are even doing DEI. And so yes, we're talking about maybe 20% of the country even works for a corporation that is doing this thing in the first place. And you're making it sound like it's everybody. Then now we're talking about 20% are doing it correctly and which ones are doing it incorrectly, which maybe leaves us with your idea of it, maybe like 15% of the country is now doing this like crazy version of DEI, which is just, yeah, so like we're still talking about such a slim minority that is not going to trickle down to everybody else. That's just not how this works.
It sets the tone. Yes, everyone follows the practices that the big businesses do. Everyone wants to be like them and follow them.
But that's what I'm talking about, is you're talking about practices as though it's obvious these things are happening. But if other companies are going to follow these practices, they would have to be able to see them somewhere. They wouldn't be going and looking at the fucking Fox News or OAN boogeyman of the week and say, oh, well, that's obviously what we should do now. No, they're actually going through like studies and reports and seeing what it is that's actually happening. Not this like, oh, we all know it's happening, even though we can't see it. It's like obviously there. Nobody's following those business practices.
Okay. Stop saying tiebreakers. That's the only triggering thing I had.
It's a tiebreaker.
It's not.
It is.
It's not. None of those. That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous to say it's not.
The two candidates are anywhere near tied.
I just explained. How many times did I explain how they are obviously going to be tied? And you don't have a rebuttal to that outside of the fact that like there's other companies that are going to have more subjective measurements. Sure, there are some in some positions that will have more subjective measurements, but most companies aren't operating that way anymore. They have more definitive ways of hiring.
So your only point on DEI is that there's a tiny amount of companies, a very...
Do they? I don't think that's true. Companies have like definitive ways of hiring. How many companies are actually hiring on like a strict point scale? I feel like they still do interviews and shit, no?
Top companies that get so many applicants that they use all these filtering mechanisms that when they get their score back, they are actually tied, and then they just choose the minority over the white person. That's what you're saying when you say DEI.
No, that's just my argument against your thought process. Hold on.
Tommy's just totally tripping if he thinks they use definitive measurements and it's done on like a strict score. No, obviously they make subjective judgments about what other factors they want about the candidate. that may override the point score. It's not definitive. That's a...
No. Damn it, man. Seriously, I got to start muting you when I talk. Like, I seriously cannot get through a fucking sentence before you start talking again. I am saying anything to do with DEI. Your argument is that it doesn't, that there's never any ties. And I'm explaining why there are obviously ties. Yes, companies, big companies especially, are going to have...
That's all DEI?
I'm saying that big...
Yeah, they're obviously going to have like a point system on the applications that is going to filter a pool of people that then they'll do interviews for and make judgments about which one they want, right? That's probably what the process is like. It's not, they have definitive point scores on who to hire.
Companies are obviously going to have a ton of like tests and things that they have people take, and they already have. Yes, the first filter is like tons of minimum requirements just for you to apply for the job in the first place. You know, like education, all these things. Then once you get that, now you're taking these other tests to get you through to the next level. That's normally going to be like personality tests and these other things. Then after once you get through that part, and you have a high enough test score. Now normally you're allowed to actually go and do an interview or something. And yes, at that point, all those people are so similar and are like exactly the same that there's.
Wait, what? How? No. No, they won't be exactly the same. No.
These things. Then once you get that, now you're taking these other tests to get you through to the next level. That's normally going to be like personality tests and these other things. Then after once you get through that part and you have a high enough test score, now normally you're allowed to actually go and do an interview or something. And yes, at that point, all those people are so similar and are like exactly the same that there's very likely going to be ties.
And that's all of DEI for you.
I don't know why you keep saying that. None of that is DEI. No. That has nothing to do with DEI.
That's not DEI.
No.
I thought that was what...
But he called it DEI. He was explaining DEI, and he said tiebreakers with DEI. Now it's not DEI. What? Dude, I didn't even get this far. Now it's not DEI? What?
You're saying DEI is?
No, the hiring practices. The DEI, I'm saying, is the encouragement for businesses to have more diverse employment.
Okay. And that affects more than just those big companies that have actual ties.
I think most companies, yes, are going to be encouraged to have more diverse employment. Yeah. So they'll do it with like diversity.
The Googles and the Facebooks and all those ones that have a bunch of metrics where they actually get a tiebreaker. And then I'm going to go to the majority of companies that DEI, if used, they would not have tiebreakers.
Okay, sure, but the majority of companies that aren't in those 500 plus employees aren't doing DEI.
Okay, so you're saying that. Why are you saying 500? Everything I've ever seen is 50.
Yeah, Cog. This one says that DEI is like the mandatory training stuff. The hiring practices are usually called affirmative or positive action.
50
employees or less don't have to follow these practices by any whatever legal thing. Everybody over 50 would need to follow whatever guidelines are being set forth.
I mean, we were just talking about this earlier, how fucking skinny Tom is. It's crazy.
Well, the minimum requirement is 500. Then they are encouraged to do it. Then it says 85% of Fortune 500 companies have DEI. So that's all, even out of Fortune 500 companies, we're not even talking about like 95. We're talking about 85%.
DEI is just a cultural piece, right?
Yeah, we're talking about encouragement, right? We're talking about like, yeah. And then it says.
So, as you've stated it, I'm fine with it then. If you're saying that the top companies, they do all these tests and they have actually tied candidates on their scores, then yeah, take the minority pick. Or whatever thing you need to diversify the opinions and the culture within your office, that's all good and fine. I just don't think that is how, that's a small amount of companies. I think that normally once that cultural piece is put out there to a lot of other companies, the way it gets applied to make sure that they don't appear like they're doing bad practices or whatever, causes them to choose candidates that may not be
diversity quotas. Yeah, that gets used too. Yeah, sure.
That is what I'm guessing a lot of people that don't like DEI, that is what they have witnessed and why they have issues with it.
Yeah, again, these are like boogeyman things that I know people say exist, but I've just never seen any evidence to it. And when
evidence to that, no one's going to cop to that.
Well, that's the point, is that like this is a thing that people make up. So like, oh, I went and applied for this job and the other person who was there was black and I didn't get hired and they did. I'm sure it was DEI. I was discriminated against for being white. That's the fucking story that I hear all the time. That person has no fucking idea if they were hired or not for this. And just the same way that you guys talking about the fact that, oh, this is obviously what DEI is. You have no way of knowing that. That's not what the program is. That's not what's actually asked for. That's not what's encouraged by the program. So I don't know why they're saying that's what it is. They have no evidence to say that's what it is. It's just not part of the program whatsoever. So it just doesn't make sense that people think this is what it is.
Mostly what people witness it being is all of the training stuff, which then That's the third party stuff of a bunch of people coming in and doing that and then taking complaints within companies.
Wait, what was Blood just doing the line? The fuck was
That's
that?
what it is. Actually, thinking about the fact that particular man.
That is.
Let's see if we can, what's he doing there?
You're saying.
And then it said,
right?
500. Courage to saw.
Being legal thing.
I didn't see him rack. So it's probably, it might not be a line.
This is average by
doing key.
So it just doesn't make sense that people think this is what it is.
Straight out the baggie.
Mostly what people witness it being is all of the training stuff, which then that's the third party stuff of a bunch of people coming in and doing that and then taking complaints within companies. That's what most people are probably dealing with of the cultural piece of DEI. The hiring practices stuff, that goes back way further to affirmative action, set the tone on that.
Yeah, but affirmative action, yes, but exactly. But the lawsuits are what like made it to where, and I don't even know that like it was companies that were getting fired for or in trouble for affirmative action. I remember schools getting in trouble for affirmative action, but I don't remember companies.
Yep, no, companies did. They sued them based off the demographics of the area and whatnot, and if they didn't fit in that,
he's tucked right
I
up.
can't remember which company or whatever, but then that set the tone for what people did. Then there was the California somewhere that every board has to have a female
burst
on
of
it,
energy.
So they have to move
What's
someone
going
into
on?
their company board, and then there was been a bunch of movements on that. But it's all a cultural what do you call it? Tone, or it's setting the tone within the culture for how people are acting, and then people take that to lean one way or the other, and then people start seeing discrepancies. You call it a boogeyman, but like I said, people probably wouldn't. Now, if it's you that didn't get a job and then you're going to make that excuse, I would call that faulty. Like you're too tied to it.
You know what? Actually, no. I support Tom Twinquaxing. Actually, you know what? I support this. Stop eating.
To be someone witnessing the scenario that isn't tied to it, that I would care about how they came to that opinion. Or on the beneficial
again, it's
side
about the program. So when we're talking about DEI is a program that we're talking about that is used for diversity to be like implemented in businesses and colleges and things like this, right? If we go look at the program and what it is, that should be what we use to come to our conclusions, not like what we're afraid it could possibly become. That's insane. And so that's why I call it a boogeyman, is that there's just no evidence of this. We don't have evidence that this ever happens. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen whatsoever, but if it did happen and we did have evidence of it, they would be easy lawsuits.
No, it'd be hard lawsuits. Then no one's going to, it's.
If you actually have evidence of it, if you actually have evidence of it, like people actually.
No one's writing that down. No one's an idiot.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Stop it, Ninja. Stop. That's what I'm saying. If you.
Tom almost dropped one. Tom's getting, dude. He did some drugs. I stopped saying he's doing drugs. I was talking black.
I'm not saying that it doesn't happen whatsoever, but if it did happen and we did have evidence of it, they would be easy lawsuits.
No, it'd be hard lawsuits. Then no one's gonna. It's.
If you actually have evidence of it, if you actually have evidence of it, like people actually.
No one's writing that down. No one's an idiot.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Stop it, Ninja. Stop. That's what I'm saying. Oh,
wait. His chat name was Ninja. If
you actually had evidence of it, that would be an easy lawsuit.
That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Just like you, when you were talking about the whole, it's like not getting a.
The way he said that, though, I felt that. The way he said it, though, he meant that. He meant that shit.
Conviction means that it isn't in existence. Just doesn't mean it didn't happen. Doesn't mean that didn't change their thought process within the promoting and the hiring.
If your thought process is just something could be, so let's be afraid of it, then fine. I don't live my life this way. It could be that like aliens freeze the earth every single day and rape us all in the ass and then take off to the fucking take back off to their planets. It could be, we wouldn't know, and there's no way we could know. So we should all start to worry about our asses getting raped by aliens every time they pause the fucking world.
The only reason I jumped on is I didn't like the word tiebreaker. Now you've clarified that you're talking about the top companies that actually that are getting all the Ivy League and they're getting all the best applicants for their positions, and they actually do have tiebreakers. Now that I understand that you've narrowed it to that minimal whatever, then there are actual tiebreakers. I don't actually care that much about the DEI stuff. I think it's a waste of time. I think it will lead to some promoting and whatnot that isn't probably ideal.
I'm not saying that you're afraid of it. I'm saying that the reason I'm saying this is why I call it a boogeyman. And then when you use the logic, just because we don't have evidence doesn't mean it's not happening. Yes, of course, but we can't claim it's happening without evidence. Like, we can't just say it's possible it happens, but we don't have any evidence, but we're going to keep acting as though it is happening. That's ridiculous. Nothing works that way.
I think most people that would be against it would be that it's setting like what you laid out with the big companies, but that's not, it'll get filtered down within the culture to the other companies that don't have this, and they're going to apply it not as well, and people can see it coming. They can saw it with affirmative action. Probably those first lawsuits made sense, and then when people were just so afraid of getting sued, they made less than awesome decisions, and then people
Jimberly
saw
super chatted
So
$2. Tom looks like a gay Fade Routher.
This guy. This guy. Jesus.
whether
Well, just
it'll
to be clear,
that big a deal.
Most companies don't have a wide range within their applicants. Like, most companies, like even the company that I worked for was like a 500 more plus. But when it came to like corporate employees, there was barely anybody working in the offices, and we still had a very like small range of people who were applying. And the reason isn't because we had such a high threshold for who could apply. It's because all of the people who are people who could meet that high threshold are all applying for the companies that have the high threshold. So like, you already have like an automatic like natural hierarchy of like, based on what schools you went to, it kind of determines what schools or what corporations you're going to apply to. And then everybody else just kind of filters down based on that hierarchy that already exists.
I guess you're talking a lot of hiring. Mostly what I would assume and what I saw or what I've heard from people is within the promoting end of it. And it was the same when it was discriminatory the other way. It was in the promoting. They would hire women, but
Was that a Red Bull survey? Dude, you need the Red Bull and the Addy, dude. Okay. And the nicotine, that's just based. Sorry, that's just based.
then not promote women. And then it
Full cocktail.
That's possible, but I'm just again, I'm refuting the thing that you're saying, where you're making it sound like I'm just talking about these like tippy top companies because they have like applicants that are all going to be so close together. And I'm saying, well, I'm not even saying they're the only ones who have tiebreakers, because literally everybody else filters down based on that hierarchy as well, and they all just end up with a bunch of people who have very similar qualifications and very similar backgrounds, to where there's not huge differences between one and the other.
I never witnessed that. Everything I saw was a wide array, and the balancing between when we were looking for who we were going to add was a balancing act, usually between education and experience. And
well, so let me just give you an example. Like, I used to I went and applied at a Chili's when I was 16, and Chili's is kind of like a Applebee's kind of restaurant, and they said that I couldn't apply there unless I had a pre-existing like a experience as a waiter. Now, I didn't have experience as a waiter, but all of the places that I went, places like Chili's, places like Applebee's, all of these places required you to have experience to be a waiter. Yet they were the ones that paid the most. They paid a lot more. But then I found out that there are a bunch of other like Mexican restaurants and like kind of lower scaled restaurants that will hire somebody without experience. I'll make a good bit less, but when I go and apply there, all of the people that are applying there are people who don't have experience with waitressing, and they're just a bunch of like uneducated college dropouts who are all applying and trying to just find something to make ends meet. they're not getting a bunch of fucking Ivy League college educated people applying there. There's not this wide range of types of people that are applying. And the reason is because that's just kind of what's available to them. And so based on your education and your background, this just kind of dictates where you can apply. And when you look at your options of where you can apply, most everybody picks the top that will get them the most amount of income, you know, for their background and education. And so that's why I'm saying that, like, almost everybody, regardless of what your job is or what it is that you're hiring for, you don't have these massive differences between applicants. That, like, if you're hiring for a fucking cook at McDonald's, all of the people who are coming in are normally going to be the same toothless people who aren't showering and just kind of sloppy and
like Tom.
All of that. And that's all of your options for all of the people who are applying. And there's just not a massive difference between one applicant and the other.
Middle ground there. Your corporate offices that are paying not Google or whatnot, but they're sitting much above that rank and much below the other one against the top positions. And that's where you get a wide array of different types of applicants, ones that have more education with higher GPAs versus people who've been at different companies, and the balancing act was always between, like, what do we think they've learned from the companies they're at? Do we want the systems from that company? Do we think that what they learned there could be used within our company, that we can essentially take whatever methods and whatnot that'll be useful to us and what we're trying to do? Or do we want someone who's just been recently educated, that's smart, that we can train into our systems and just go from there?
That's true.
And
that's true.
offer them less.
Yes, but you also agree that they're not hiring people who are underqualified.
No, everyone will make the minimum requirements.
Yes,
I mean,
so they're still looking for people
that at the beginning.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying, is that they're like, when you're talking about the fact that, like, yes, they are looking for different things from different people, sometimes different specialties. Like, you could have like a whole division that is like based on coding, and you want everybody there. Obviously, they have minimum requirements of coding, but one person, like, you might have a lack of understanding of one specific type of coding that, yeah, just everybody who you already have doesn't have a whole lot of experience with that. And so you're looking for somebody who has, like, this specific experience with coding. That person may not be as good as everybody else, but they're at least going to get that part of it done, and they're going to meet the minimum level of requirements for this job. Like, sure, those sorts of things exist, and I could imagine somebody attempting to apply the idea of diversity in the same way, but but it would still be illegal if they're actually doing this. And the, like, companies, like especially major companies, have HR divisions specifically set up for shit like this, and they are hardcore on making sure that hiring practices are all above board. Like, I had to go to, I think, 3 classes a year with the company that I was with just to talk about hiring practices. And it's just the same shit repeated over and over. We had to take, like, fucking tests to show that we understood all the PHU coming in clutch. Laws and regulations around hiring. We had to do these things all the time, and they were heavily enforced. Like, the smallest little complaints, they would throw full-on investigations into them and make your life miserable. They are, like, these companies are serious.
Why is he just spinning this up? I mean, I know why, but this is just classic Tom, but it's just so funny.
It's about this shit.
It's so cool.
The entire reason HR exists is to avoid lawsuits. So their whole job is to stop everybody from doing stuff like this. Even if they're sneaky about it, they don't want them doing it because they don't want to even take a chance at getting sued for it.
Yes. Yes, and that leads them to sometimes pick candidates that cover them instead of picking candidates that would be the best fit for actually doing the job. I don't see how that doesn't follow for you.
Wait, say that again?
You're going through all this stuff. You're going through all these training meetings and whatnot to tell you about how to hire and that. And a lot of it now is also focused on your, I don't know how much in the HR they're going to talk about. They're probably not. It's going to be in conjunction with all your DEI, what do you call it, office. What's that called when they go to the meetings where all of your employees go, not your hiring, not your HR, just all of your people have to go to all the DEI
orientation
seminars and
yeah, it's just the diversity training.
Yeah, but they do it to everyone, and they do it. I don't know. I think it's fallen away now. My wife says she hasn't had to do it in a while. So she was, for a while there, it was happening a few times a year. They'd have these big things where everyone had to go to and sit through and then lodge complaints and have discussions around all this stuff. But that sets a tone within the company. This is what we're focused on. We care about this. So then in the promoting and that, which is not in any sort of HR manual or guideline or anything like that, it's just, it's a feel within, this is what the company is concerned about. If you are a manager and you're looking out at your team of all white males, and you got to do a promotion or you got to do a something to bring someone new in from a lower level into your group or take a new hire, you're gonna be like, yeah, I gotta diversify this group up, and it might not be
thrilling
the
stuff.
best candidate.
Really thrilling. So I'm getting bored.
Now they'll make the minimum requirements. It's just there might be a candidate that would have been sitting there with more of something your team actually needed, but you're weighing the fact that if you keep hiring people that your team needs, you're going to look like you have an issue with women, or you have an issue with people of color, or you like, so then to protect yourself as a manager, you look for ways to diversify it so that you don't look like you're a bigot.
Yeah, but you realize that, like, yes, these are areas where you actually can pull out lawsuits when you have somebody who just is much more qualified for.
I have such a diverse. I have the most diverse audience.
Position and is obviously the better candidate and doesn't get the job, and somebody else of a different race or something does get the job. That, like, these are the times when lawsuits are.
We have Nazis. We have trans people. We have black people. We have women. I've got a shockingly high percentage of women. In fact, there are prominent black people in my community. Lots of prominent black people in my community. Like two prominent black people. Most can't even manage one. I don't know if you guys know this. YouTube says 13.6% female. Okay, isn't that crazy?
Easier, and when HR does step in and is like, hey, this is like this looks fucking insane, like this is bad, you can't do this.
I wish they had race stats. I wish they were race. That'd be so cool.
Over that sort of shit. Like, this is why I brought up HRs, to say that, like, where you're talking about the fact that, like, yeah, but these are things that nobody's ever going to write down that they did it or anything. I'm saying there's already
Jay Stalk sounded so disappointed the other day when he saw his poll for education.
HR in place that is already, like, trying to stop things like this happening within their companies. That, like, even if it looks like it could possibly be a thing, they're already going and jumping into the middle of it to make sure that it stops.
Anime blacks don't count, and you know it. What? But no, all blacks are anime blacks now. I don't think you realize this. Black people just love anime.
They're concerned about the view the other way, that person that applied seeing the team of only white males sitting there and being like, I applied and I was
Black people and Hispanics love anime.
this and I
It's
didn't
just
get
true.
it. So they're concerned on the other side of that too, and making the argument about, well, they had this skill in this computer language and you didn't, and that's what we needed for this project. That gets flimsy.
Well, no, that is a possibility, sure. Like that is a possibility, but I'm saying that even companies don't want people doing that just for their own, like, just for their own peace of mind. It's not like they're thinking like, oh, let's just see how much we can possibly get away with before we get sued. No, they want to make sure that they are doing everything above board when it comes to the shit, and that they don't come anywhere near a lawsuit, so that they don't ever have to worry about it, and they have HR doing their entire, like wrapping their entire fucking jobs around regulating these sorts of practices.
Yes, and the more likely lawsuit is that you didn't hire the person that is of minority, or than it is you didn't hire the more competent person, but you hired the person that was less competent that checked some sort of diversity box.
Well, you understand the reason that these things exist in the first place, like DAI programs and programs that are like encouraging more diversity, is because there's just endless amounts of studies that already show that we do the opposite.
That we give preference to what is our whatever we are as a hiring person.
Yeah, that we have like tribalistic biases already, and so yeah, it's like it's more so that
I don't disagree that those are there. I guess if I was to summarize what we've covered, the tiebreaker thing was a trigger for me, and then you made that clear that that's more on the higher levels of that. I was speaking more on the medium ground companies and how the culture that is pushing forth this, it can get misused. But I was just triggered on the tiebreaker. I'm just like, I've never seen any candidates that are actually tie. It's always pros and cons of like, well, this one brings this one brings that, this sort of thing. Can we offer this one less? Can we get this one for this price, or this one for that price? And then there's a whole price scale in there too. Can we get two at whatever and make the team bigger, or do we spend one for this person who's done it for way longer? Are they going to be more valuable?
This is fucking dire.
Things like that.
This is dire.
And after that, like, I get that we're trying to undo what was biases in the past. It's just we're going to.
Is there anything just funny to watch?
Yeah, I'm not saying that would make like what they're like what the boogeyman that people are talking about would be fair all of a sudden. I want to be clear that I'm not saying that.
I think most people that view DEI as a boogeyman are doing a little slippery slope down the future. The same type of thing with affirmative action of like, if this is what you're doing, then the people that get the promotion.
Yeah, this is fucking boring. What's this?